No Man's Sky's latest free update is named Expedition, and ironically, considering the word Expedition refers to journeys, it's probably Hello Games' first misstep in their free update program of patches and DLC sized content. Not that the new Expedition mode is inherently bad, it just hasn't gripped all of the No Man's Sky community like most of the other updates. Granted, it's the biggest small proportion of the current player base to be uninspired yet, if the varying different social media noises are to be believed. So why is this exactly? To be honest, I think the problem is threefold. 1. Artificial team/squad based missions, like the Anomaly missions. 2. The randomized character creation and initial tech layout. And 3. The time limited mode that just resets into a single player experience afterwards. The problem here is that the people who don't normally like interacting with the Anomaly missions aren't likely to enjoy being forced into similar for a new mode that takes away the speed they can alter their character in the appearance modifier. It dumps them with new technology skills they might not use much normally and then rushes them through a team bonding exercise, all in return for a few new badges, achievements and shinies to take with you back into this altered single player. However, Expeditions has potential. One might say a small step for teaming up, one giant leap towards something else. Let's use a little imagination using the updates and mechanics already introduced into No Man's Sky over the last few years, and go on a journey of our own into wishful thinking territory. Factions. Or is it wishful thinking? Imagine a mode where you go through character creation first, reinitialize, and just like with the new Expedition mode, you find yourself amongst new friends, inverted commas, optional. The usual Expedition game mechanic of fixing your ship and getting into space as a group kicks in. However, that is where our new mode deviates. You find that you are stranded in an abandoned system with no warp capabilities and apparently no friendly NPCs. Your group mission updates and you receive orders to perform scans from orbit of each of the planets that have been generated. You're tasked with finding 3 observatories to triangulate a scan of the whole system. Once all 3 scans have been completed by the group, you're given a waypoint in space, where upon dropping out of pulse engine mode, you're greeted by a mysteriously large asteroid. Your scans suggest power readings from within. Then your mission log updates once more. Your target is deep within. Use your ship's weapons to create an entrance inside. So after you've had some fun blowing chunks off of the asteroid, you find the entrance of the system's abandoned space station. We have found our first faction base, our first faction headquarters, our base of operations. There's just one tiny little problem. An alien infestation using the Desolation update to its fullest. But since our group has no warp capabilities and Nova leads, we're going in as a team to clear the infestation, restart the station reactor, and raise the structural integrity field, which breaks apart the rest of the asteroid rock that has collected around the station. With power restored, the station alarms go off, an emergency signal, a call for help. A small fleet of frigates have fallen out of emergency warp into orbit of one of the planets. Pursued by dozens of pirates, it's time to jump back into our ships, hit launch and get some pirates scum our crosshairs. We arrive there, wreckage from a freighter, with only frigates left to save. Thanks to technological limits, this is where things change again. As it stands, No Man's Sky has a 1 freighter, 30 frigate limit in single player with 2 to 3 fleets per system. So for faction mode, especially for the older console systems and potato PCs, we'll need to alter how many ships you can own or take with you. The range is going to be 8 to 32 players depending on the system you're using. So the solution is to have a progressive incremental limit for each player's ship count and a capital ship and frigate ship limit for each system owned as a faction. Put simply, 2 faction freighters per system and 2 frigates per player per system. A maxed out PC factions game would have 32 players, meaning 2 freighters, 64 frigates, and 32 single pilot ships maximum per system, leaving room for the game to handle the same number for NPCs. Keep in mind that if every player uses their personal ship, the AI will run a little bit smoother as it is dealing with your larger ships instead. Now away from the mechanics and back to the mission setup. You've blown the pirate scum away with your pulsars, lasers, phasers and rockets and find 32 frigates waiting to ally with you. Take your pick, choosing your personal frigate. Note that in Factions mode, frigates can be lived in like freighters. Your own personal Millennium Falcon, Defiant, Voyager, Serenity, hell, even a Starbug-sized ship for the Red Dwarf fans out there. What frigate class will you choose? Merchant, Industrial, Combat, Explorer or Support? You know that, the Jack of all trades ship. The frigates are damaged, but their warp engines are working. The rescue mission completes, and 2 new mission types become available: Station missions and Frigate missions. Station missions require scanning the system for resources, buildings, ruins, and derelicts. Single ship warp drive blueprint missions, blueprint retrieval missions, part retrieval missions, clearing alien infestations from the planets, general improvement of the abandoned system stats and station defences. You're building up your system and building up your station. The frigate missions will depend which type of frigate you decided to choose. Did you choose a merchant frigate? Do you want to do courier speed missions? Do you want to transport rare or expensive items? Do you want to do a trade route mission? Or perhaps you chose an industrial frigate. You're gonna have to go around asteroid mining, yes, energy transfer missions, colony equipment delivery missions. There's always the Explorer frigate, colony search abandoned empty systems, system trade, conflict level surveys, warp lane mapping to unlock systems. Yes, that's another little change. You have to take the Explorer frigates and warp lane map so that you can go about your business in the universe. The universe isn't completely open, you've got to unlock it yourself. Then we get on to the combat frigate. Search and destroy missions, blockade missions, and security/escort type missions. The lovely escort missions. Every game's got to have one. Then of course there is the Jack of all trades support frigate, the search and rescue missions, the passenger service, or a breakdown service. Now, obviously any frigate can do any mission, you don't want to be locked out, but if you've chosen a specific type of frigate, it's going to specialise in those types of missions. And it's going to have strengths and weaknesses. So, if you want to do every type of mission, maybe you want to choose the support frigate. It's going to be the medium type, jack of all trades type frigate. So, maybe that's the one for you if you want to do all of them. If you want to go kicking ass, get yourself a combat frigate. Now, getting into it, how are we going to look at it? So, talking of strengths and weaknesses, take the combat frigate. It's going to have limited room for merchant goods, for example, but obviously the most weapons, or maybe the fastest sublight engines for getting in and out of fights, the pulse engines. However, it won't have the best engines in terms of warp jump distance, because what would be the point of the Explorer frigates, or even the little ships? Now, with obviously all these different types of missions available, your group's going to have to figure out if they want to work individually, in smaller groups, or as one giant group. You're going to have to find warp drives for your single seat ships, you're going to have to repair your frigates, you're going to have to repair your space station, and clear your home system of any infestations or lingering pirates. You then venture out into the systems unlocked by the explorer ships and frigates, discovering which of the 5 factions control each system. The Gek, the Korvax, the Vy'keen, the Sentinels, or the Pirates. And of course, you're going to encounter the nomadic travelers and anomaly NPCs, letting you recruit from the 5 different species that make up all the different factions. You're going to warp into battles where freighters are besieged and each member of your faction gets their own one freighter. Or you're going to warp into the path of derelict freighters, clear the dissolution infestations and claim the repairable ships for yourself. Perhaps you'll find crashed freighters that are in one piece and you decide to launch them from the planet. You travel to empty and abandoned systems found by explorer ships and frigates, then reclaim the space stations, planets and systems, growing your empire or your federation or your commonwealth, whatever you call it. You create trade routes, allies and enemies along the way, maybe even capturing starbases and systems instead. Go to war with the Gek, take all their systems instead. Sod looking for abandoned systems. Before you know it, you have a faction ready to befriend or conquer the galaxy. It's all PvE of course, but hey, who cares? Will you wipe out the Sentinels or alien infestations in systems? Will you align with 3 major races or go to war with one or all of them? Will you become an organised pirate and bandit organisation, wiping out or assimilating the competition? Will you protect the anomaly within your territory? Will you seek the Atlas Station and another galaxy to settle or conquer? But most importantly, will your faction reach the mission that can cause a split and create Factions PvP mode? Aha! So there we have it. A little taste of how a faction game mode for No Man's Sky works from inside my head. Using most of the mechanics already in the game and clearly possible, if a little long, to reprogram bits here and there, especially the frigates. 8 to 32 people given a universal sandbox to mould and shape with events and accomplishments that feel deeper than shiny new coats of paint and loose achievement badges. A player versus environment mini multiplayer online experience, a real-time strategy in three dimensions, experience with potential new friends and enemies. A purpose to the No Man's Sky grind. Of course, this is just stuff that's in my head. Let me know what you think, tell me your ideas, knowledge is power as the saying goes. I've been Robert, this has been No Man's Sky's Factions, and of course LSC. Like, subscribe and comment, and eventually I hope to impress you enough to have you visit my Patreon. As always guys, see you next time, have fun and TTFN. Ta-ta for now.